Madness of the Darkmoon Faire is here, and now it's time to review the warrior cards. Starting up, we have the 1 mana spell Stage Dive, which is a draw a rush minion and corrupt, give it +2/+1. Of all the corrupt cards, a 1 mana card is very, very easy to corrupt. This reminds me a lot of Town Crier, a 1 mana 1/2 that drew a rush minion. I think Warrior has a lot of good rush minions like Restless Mummy, like the card we're about to see. And this is very comparable. It's not that hard to corrupt it if you don't play it on 1. And even if you do play it, it's still 1 mana draw a rush card, which is like probably going to tutor out something that you want. So this is great. You know, rush cards benefit from buffs a lot because you get the buff immediately. I think it's a 5 out of 5. I think Rush Warrior is going to be a tier 1 deck next meta. I think this is one of the main pieces for it, and it's a very strong card. Moving along, we have Bumper Car. This is a 2 mana 1/3 rush. With Death Rattle, add 2 1/1 riders with rush to your hand. This is a lot of synergy for cards like ETC God of Metal, which we'll get into later. I think it's a pretty solid card, a 2 mana 1/3 rush that gets, 2/2 in stats afterwards. Not too bad. I think if it gets buffed up, it's even stronger. I just think it's a strong card. It makes Stage Dive better because it can give you a card to curve into if you really need to. I think it's a solid 4 out of 5, and I think it's going to be in that rush deck, so it's a 5 out of 5 in meta rating. Minefield. Very different kind of card, more of a control card. It reminds me of Dynamatic. It's a 2 mana spell where you deal 5 damage randomly split among all minions. Generally, that means it's going to be the best for you when you have no minions of your own. So you're playing an aggro deck, they have a bunch of stuff, and you need a way to clear it just to kind of slow them down a bit and keep alive, which is something that Warrior generally wants to do if they're a control warrior, which is where I see this card working. I also think it's quite good against stealth minions, which are a big part of the meta with Rogue right now. And, just kind of general tokeny stuff like Demon Hunter might have a couple extra cheap minions that have 1 or 2 health. So I think this is quite strong. I think Control Warrior is probably going to be like a tier 2, so I'm going to give this a 4 across the board. But yeah, very strong card. Stagehand is a 2 mana 3/2 mech that gives a random minion in your hand +1/+1. I think this card is okay. I think it's, decent stats for the mana, and it's a mech. Despite that, I think it's just average. I think people might play it, but I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5 in card quality and a 2 out of 5 in meta rating. I think people try it, and then they play other stuff. There's lots of good cards in Warrior right now. Next up, we have Feat of Strength. This is a 3 mana warrior spell. Give a random taunt minion in your hand +5/+5. We've seen hand buff struggle to work, but this is quite a big buff. I think it makes sense in a control deck where they're not doing too much early on and they want to have their mana that would normally be just wasted on a hero power invested into something that can keep them alive later. And I think that works for this card, right? You play it with a taunt. Of course, there's like the 8 mana taunt that's a 3/6 that duplicates itself. This is really good with that. I don't think that's where we're going to see it. I think it's more, you just play this on 3, you didn't have anything else to do, and then it buffs up a taunt in your hand that you later get to play, and it just makes good of your use of your mana and keeps you alive. I think that's a pretty good card. I'd give it a 3 across the board. I think some decks will run it, some won't, and if they are, they're going to be in that kind of control warrior archetype. It seems like a 1 of in control warrior to me. Next up, we have Sword Eater. This is a 4 mana 2/5 taunt that equips you a 3 mana 3/2 sword. So basically, you get a Fiery War Axe for 1 more mana, and you get a 2/5 pirate taunt. It's amazing. It's a very, very good card. You just get a lot for your mana. It's bundling. Bundling is very powerful. It's defensive, which can be good for control warrior because they get a taunt and then they kill a minion with the weapon. I think it's just really good. I think you see this in the rush deck. I think you see this in the control warrior deck. I'm going to give this, honestly, 5s across the board. Maybe 4 out of 5 in card quality. It's not like meta-defining so broken, but I really like this card. I think it's 4 out of 5 card quality and 5 out of 5 in meta. Tent Trasher. This is a 5 mana dragon with rush that costs 1 less for each friendly minion with a unique minion type. So pushing this kind of menagerie archetype, which is what we see later on in these cards. I think this card is pretty good. If you have a mech or a pirate or something like that, which Warrior often does, it's going to be a 4 cost 5/5 rush, which is pretty good. If you have anything extra beyond that, it's going to be even cheaper. I think most of the time you're going to be able to play this for 4. And since it's a rush card, you like rush cards in Rush Warrior, I think you're going to play it. Maybe don't play a ton of them, but I think it's pretty solid still. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 across the board. I think it's a pretty good card. It's going to be in Rush Warrior. Except we have Ringmasters Baton, again pushing that menagerie stuff. This is a 2-mana 1/3 weapon that after your hero attacks you give a mech, dragon, and pirate in your hand +1/+1. Generally speaking, hand buff stuff is not usually that good. I don't think this is an exception to that. I think it's not that great stats. If it was a 2/3, maybe I'd be more interested. And the buffs are kind of slow. It's still not amazing. So I'm going to give this 2 out of 5 across the board. I think people will try to make menagerie work, but it's not that good. And again, Warriors got a lot of good cards. They don't need this. Next up, we have Ringmaster Watson. This is a 5-mana 3/5 that with the battle cry to draw a mech, dragon, and pirate. This card is kind of interesting. It's pretty good reload. 5-mana draw 3. That's quite solid. And it draws you a mech, dragon, and pirate, but there are already mechs we want to play. There are already dragons we want to play, like the Tent Trasher that we just saw. And there's pirates that we want to play, like the 4-mana 2/5 that we saw earlier. So I think this is a card that you probably play somewhere. Maybe it's just a bit too slow for the aggro deck. It's a bit of reload, but it kind of depends. I still think I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 across the board because I just think this is pretty good, and you don't need to force the menagerie the way you do with the Ringmasters Baton. Last but not least, we have one of the main reasons you play Rush Warrior. This is the 2-mana 1/4 minion, ETC God of Metal. After a friendly Rush minion attacks, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. Holy crap, is this quite good. You know, you play this with any Rush minion, and not only do they do the damage that they attack with, they also do 2 damage to the hero in a tempo-based class that wants to kind of push the opponent and burn them out before they can stabilize. I think this is really good with Bumper Card, the one that gives you 1/1 rushes, because that's just like 1 damage each plus the 2 damage from this to the hero. Very, very strong. It's very good with Restless Mummy, also very strong. This is a really good card. I'm going to give it a 5 across the board. I think it's going to enable Rush Warrior. It's just a solid card. Stat line's kind of sticky, although I don't think you play it on 2. But it's good, man. It's very, very good. And I think that's it for the Warrior cards. So if you enjoyed this review, please consider subscribing. Check out my other reviews. I'm going to be doing lots more Hearthstone content in the future. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.